In today's set review, we're gonna be taking a look at what is probably the best LEGO Star Wars set from the summer wave, and this is set number 75417, Ultimate Collector Series AT-AT. As already mentioned, this set is part of the LEGO Star Wars 2025 summer wave. It contains 1513 pieces, one minifigure, and retails for a retail price of roughly $200 in euros. And yeah, we will come back to this price later. On the front of the box you can see what is now the norm for 18 plus sets from LEGO. It's just the model in a black background with some kind of shine. On this model it's green, which is fitting because of Endor, but just imagine how cool it could look if you just had some Endor in the background like on previous box arts. Yeah, I think it's very sad that this is now the norm for 18 plus sets. On the backside you get at least some cool stuff. You get the measurements for the AT-AT, you see another angle of the AT-AT and also the display plaque. And on the bottom you can see some play features, the interior, and also a picture from the movie, which is really nice. Overall it's a solid box design like most of the 18 plus sets. It's just pretty boring. I can only hope that we one day go back to the old 18 plus box designs, which were just amazing. When I think back to the Snowspeeder or the UCS Slave 1 from 2015, man, the good old days. When opening the set, you get a total of 14 numbered bags, of course an instruction manual, you get a pretty manageable sticker sheet with only 5 stickers total, and of course the printed plaque, which thankfully nowadays is the norm. Now taking a look at the one and only minifigure in the set, this is of course the AT-AT driver. And this minifigure is close to perfect, but sadly only close to. But let's start with the positive things first. Of course the helmet piece is once again awesome on this minifigure. It's got the nice goggles printed onto it and just looks really cool. It's quite interesting that this character doesn't have a double-sided face print, because you could very easily do a double-sided face print here without something on the chin showing through the helmet on the backside, but still the face print is solid and looks definitely good. I'm also a big fan of the torso printing and the way it continues over the hips to the legs. Looks really nice and clean, awesome printing. But the best thing about this figure is of course the arm printing, which you get on both sides of the arms. On the shoulder or the upper arm you get the Imperial logo, which looks awesome, and further down you get some wrinkles from the suit that he wears in the movie. This looks just really amazing, adds some nice detail, and it's definitely a UCS worthy minifigure. Speaking of UCS worthy minifigure though, I don't know why, but they didn't include dual model legs, and it would have been just such an easy change to make this minifigure, in my opinion, perfect. I don't need a double-sided face print, but dual model legs would have been the bare minimum in my opinion. And it's especially crazy when you're considering that they already included dual model legs in way cheaper sets, and they even included these legs that they should have used with this minifigure in way cheaper things like the collectible minifigure series. Like this Recool minifigure had these dual model legs that you could have just reused for this AT-AT driver, and they didn't, even though it's a $200 UCS set. I don't know, it just blows my mind. But I guess this is what you can expect from LEGO Star Wars nowadays, as they also don't include cloth waist capes in sets, but in other themes they clearly do, which I still don't understand, but yeah, that's another topic and not relevant for this video. Overall, I really like the minifigure and I think it looks really great. Yeah, it's just the dual model legs would have elevated this figure to a whole nother level. I just don't get it. It is close to perfection, why not make it perfect already? As usual with the 18 plus and especially UCS sets, you can of course put the AT-AT driver right next to the printed plaque, which is of course printed nowadays, which is amazing. It looks also really good, besides the little knob from the molding in the middle. If you want to read all the details on there, just pause the video. Otherwise it looks great. I think it's a really cool add-on for display, and yeah, it's just the typical UCS plaque. But now let's move on to the UCS AT-AT, and it's finally here. I've waited very long for this remake, and for quite some time I hoped that they would just announce a UCS AT-AT, and so I was quite glad when I found out about the leaks about the UCS AT-AT and that LEGO decided to remake this set. And in my opinion overall, just from the start, it's a worthy upgrade. It looks phenomenal. This is such a sleek model and it's just very sturdy and stable. It looks great in display, and now let's dive deeper into it. Starting with the feet, at the front we have this kind of toe from the AT-AT with the fence cutting blade, which looks really nice, and you can move this up and down. Further back you have some more details like the ground sensors and everything, which looks also really great. Overall the whole foot is very tiled off and doesn't have a lot of stuff showing, which I really appreciate in a UCS model. You may or may not have noticed the 10 plate in the foot there, and overall these 10 plates or just 10 pieces are sprinkled all over this build. This is not a building error on my side or anything. This is how it's supposed to look, as they explain in the instruction manual. This should replicate some wear and tear and some dirt from Endor and just in general on the AT-AT, which we will get back to later. Yeah, I don't think it looks that great, but yeah, I will tell you my opinion about this later on. Speaking of the instruction manual, as usual with the UCS sets, you get a bunch of introduction pages at the start. And once again, there are some nice promo shots from the UCS AT-AT itself, and also from the movie and some concept art. I always really like when they do this, because it just gives this premium feeling. It's really cool. Coming back to the actual model, and here we have the ankle section of the build, and I think this looks just amazing. But the section does not only look good, but also adds a lot of stability and sturdiness to the model, because the AT-AT is of course very heavy at the top and doesn't have all too much stuff below, which of course comes at the expense of moving. You can't really move the legs at all, they're totally fixed in their position, which I don't think is a bad thing. I've moved the legs on my UCS AT-AT once, and of course it's a cool feature, but I don't really do it often. It's just in one pose and it sits right there on display, and I think this is the same for the UCS AT-AT, so I'd take stability over moving legs any day. To take a better look at the bottom and also on the bottom of the feet of the set, you can just simply remove the head. This is pretty easy and very simple. You can just pull the head upwards and it's just gonna come off because it's only connected with this axle piece here, so it's super easy to do that. As you can see on the bottom of the set, they also really try to finish it off nicely. You build this section separately and then flip it around and click it in there, and it's really nicely attached. It's a cool building technique. There are some nice details like these 10 pieces, which once again, personally, I don't really like. And you get this dome in the middle, if you know what I mean, and also a nice wire that gets attached there. Really nice. While the building technique for the feet is not that special, you just build some technique and then cover it up later with some bricks and also some plates. There are these 4 rubber pieces which I've never really seen before. Usually they would do this with tires. This is the way that they secure the UCS AT-AT feet, not sliding all over your table or shelf or whatever. But here it's just 4 of these small black knobs which are rubber, and they do their job pretty well. So even if you try to push or slide the AT-AT around, it's not going to work because these rubber pieces work really well. So I'm very surprised about this technique because usually, as I said, these were tires in most of the other builds that I've seen. But yeah, it's a great building technique and it works. Looking from the top side of the AT-AT now without the head, you can see the connection between the legs and the main body part, which are these 4 plate connection things that you can see there. They are pretty sturdy and they hold the legs not only well in place, but also secure the sturdiness of the top of the model. As far as I know, it is not 100% accurate, and on an actual AT-AT it's just 1 connection, but I'll happily take this over just a very wobbly model. So yeah, the bottom section is very stable and very sturdy. You can even shake it, you can grab it up on one leg, on the other leg, on the middle, and even shake it pretty hard and it's not gonna break or anything. This is really great and I really love the stability on this model. Putting the head back onto the AT-AT is just as simple as removing it. You just put the axle in there, push down on the head, and boom, you got your AT-AT assembled again. On the front of the AT-AT you can move these shield pieces up and downwards and you can just adjust them the way you want to. On the side you get some nice greebling and details on the AT-AT legs and also a sticker on each side, which does not look good. I mean, the details on the sticker looks nice, but the color does just not match at all. I don't know why they can't match the color on most of their stickers, but if they can't, just print it, especially in a $200 Ultimate Collector Series set. This has to be printed or at least the accurate color. Now, while the backside doesn't look as good as the front, they still were able to recreate a lot of details and it looks pretty nice. Once again, a bunch of those 10 pieces which I don't like. I appreciate the effort and I appreciate the thought process of them, but yeah, I don't think that this looks really good or adds anything to the model. You have these air vents on the section of the body, which looks cool. You have some nice details on the back of the legs, which don't look as good as they look from the front, just because you see a lot of these negative studs. And on the head you have some printed pieces for these air fans, which looks pretty nice, and also some good amount of detail. So yeah, the back section is good. As expected, you can of course turn the head around and move it to the left or to the right side. Now directly under the head there is this tire piece out of rubber, which this time they didn't use in the feet to just secure the feet not sliding away. Now this time it's under the head to, I think, kind of dampen the pressure, and so the head doesn't wobble around as much. But I'm not entirely sure if this really works or if this adds to the wobbliness, because the head is still pretty shaky. But yeah, it's not the biggest problem. This is a display model, so yeah, I just wanted to point it out. But now that we're already speaking of the head, I think the proportions look fantastic on this model, especially on the top section, which is the head. I think overall the shaping and also the building techniques, how they achieve the angles and everything are really cool. And just overall it is a really satisfying build when it comes together and it just looks really good on display. When it comes to play features, there's a lot to do on this head from the AT-AT. The blaster cannons are of course movable, so you can adjust them up and downwards. Sometimes they get a little stuck behind the plates here, but usually it works just fine. Of course you can close the viewports and open them the way you like. I think it looks solid when it's closed off, and it's also very accurate to what an AT-AT can do. But for me it's gonna stay open on display, I just think it looks cooler. On the left side of the head, you're gonna find the concussion launcher and you can turn this thing around 360 degrees. And I just have to point out how good this thing looks. It looks just 101 with the in-universe AT-AT. It's a very great building technique that they used here. It looks amazing. On the other side, you're gonna find the light blaster cannon, which does have a small shield which you can move. And you can also move the whole cannon around and turn it around 360 degrees. And it also looks very nice and is very detailed. These cannons on both sides of the AT-AT look just phenomenal. The drivers of course need some way into the AT-AT, and this is by this hatch on the top which you can open up. You can't really see a lot in here because it's pretty dark, but because you need to see some details, you can move the whole top sections back and flip it upwards, so you can actually see the interior. The interior looks pretty decent in my opinion, especially for this small room to work with here. It's of course not minifigure scale because this whole AT-AT is not minifigure scale, but otherwise it looks pretty good. You have these two brown chairs, which I do really like. What is interesting that they printed the black ingot pieces onto the sticker for the 2x3 tile, just because the connection wouldn't be really fitting for the ingots and they would just not stay in place. This is really the first time that I've seen LEGO printing a part onto a sticker. It's pretty interesting and also worth pointing out. The drivers get a nice view out of the AT-AT from those windows, and there are a bunch of printed parts and also a sticker in the middle to replicate some control panels. Here you can also see on the interior these connections with these rubber pieces to hold the side panels from the AT-AT into place. It's a pretty simple building technique, but it works great and allows for some great angles and also for not too big gaps. In general, there are very minimal gaps on this AT-AT head, which just looks very good. As you've probably already seen, the top hatch of the AT-AT is also fairly detailed. There are some nice building techniques and also some nice amount of greebling here. Looks pretty good. Now putting this new UCS AT-AT from 2025 next to the UCS AT-AT from 2021, they do look fairly great together. While this likely won't be my final display, as I probably still want to keep the smaller Hoth AT-AT next to the UCS AT-AT, which is also more fitting when it comes to scale, I still think it's a great display option to display both of these UCS models next to each other. Of course, scale-wise they don't really match, as the UCS AT-AT is bigger than minifigure scale and the UCS AT-AT is about minifigure scale, but still those UCS models look so cool next to each other. It's still pretty crazy how the AT-AT gets dwarfed by the UCS AT-AT, but yeah, it was about 4 times the price, so I think that's kind of normal. Speaking of the price though, and I of course have to address the price point of $200 for this set, and I don't think it's worth $200. The old UCS AT-AT from 2006 came with 1068 pieces, so about 500 pieces less, and came also with no minifigure. However, it was bigger when it comes to measurements, and it also, adjusted for inflation, was cheaper. Adjusted for inflation, the set would cost about $125 to $130 in today's money, and so I don't feel the $200 on this set now. The new model is of course the better model. It has a lot of better building techniques and just details. It's a lot more sturdy and just overall looks better and feels more like a UCS set. Still, I'd say it is a little overpriced. I think 160 or 170 would be a fair price in my opinion, but I just think $200 pushes the mark a little too far, and I just don't think it feels like $200. However, still, I think it's a very great model. I'm very happy that I got it, and I'm so happy that we finally have a new UCS AT-AT on shelves. I've waited for this quite a while, and I'm so happy that this set finally happened. But now definitely let me know your opinions down in the comments below. What do you think about the UCS AT-AT? Is it something you're interested in, or is it something that you would rather skip? If you're new, please consider subscribing to support the channel, and also to like if you enjoyed this video. Feel free to check out the other LEGO Star Wars 2025 summer reviews, and other than that, have a great day.